Hello, I'm Logan Phillips and welcome to my vlog, or as we like to call it, the VLOGAN. This is a vlog dedicated to people with special needs and those who love them. Welcome everyone. Thanks for tuning in to the latest VLOGAN. Today I am lucky enough to be speaking with Adam Kressler. Adam is the VP of Customer Experience at the Cincinnati Northern Kentucky Airport, also known as CVG. He and his folks at the airport have developed an amazing program for individuals with special needs that we're going to talk a little bit about. But before we get into that, Adam, welcome. Thank you for joining me.
Logan, thanks for having me. Excited to be with you.
Great. And you just said that we may hear aircraft in the background, and that's because you're actually at the airport today.
That's correct. Yeah, I'm out in Concourse A in my office. The light you're seeing shining here overlooks the north side of Concourse A. So if we have anybody coming in on gate A6 and A8, you may hear some engine noise and some airport.
Boy, my
noises.
boys would think your office is a lot cooler than mine. Mine, you look out at some grass. Yours, you get to watch planes take off and land. So that's pretty neat.
Yeah, it is neat, and I got to tell you, I have some of the most beautiful sunrises here in the winter coming through. You know, as you come in at dark 30,
yeah,
you get to see the sun rising over the airplane tails. You know, I love aviation, so it's always a great way to start the day.
Oh, that's great. So just a little background about Adam, folks. Adam went to University of Cincinnati. He's originally from Loveland, Ohio, which, if you know anything about Cincinnati, has really blown up as a kind of a metropolitan area from when Adam and I were growing up in Cincinnati. So that's kind of been neat to see. And he left for a little while, but now is back in Cincinnati and doing great things at the airport. Adam, can you tell me or tell us what's your day look like? What do you do? And then we'll talk about the Lyft program.
Well, you know, this past year with COVID, my day's been a lot about, you know, researching and understanding how to make sure that this airport is as clean as possible and that we're bringing, you know, a great facility to the folks that are ready to fly again. But generally speaking, you know, when I get in the morning, it's kind of a quick look back at the morning to see how we did. You know, we're much more an O&D airport now than we used to be. Our mornings are very busy.
What's that mean?
Sorry, I will do that, and you'll have to call me on that.
Yeah, thanks.
O&D means origin and destination. So, you know, when you and I were younger in Cincinnati, this was a big connecting hub. And most of the passengers that came through never touched the ground here in Kentucky or over in Ohio. As we've grown and as Delta has changed their business model, we're now what's considered an O&D, origin and destination market. So we're really serving our local communities much more than we ever have. The days of folks just touching down for a half hour connecting to the next flight, we still have a few of those, but mostly now this airport is all about serving the local community and then being that front door for the local community's guests, you know, whether it be a business traveler coming in to visit the city or someone on their way out to a nice sunny destination. We're really more on the planning side, working with the airlines, the CBP, Customs and Border Protection, TSA, just to make sure we're all set and ready for the show, as it were. And then I also have in my group, you know, that terminal ops piece that really does all that planning and making sure that we're ready. And then I also have a customer service team that, you know, they respond to the information requests on our website. Folks reach out directly via phone. We actually have live people that answer your call during the day.
Awesome.
Which is nice. And, you know, we're really there to help support. A lot of folks, when they're flying, they don't know that most of their questions need to go to the airline. We're the face of the airport. And so we're just here to help that passenger get connected to the information they need. So that's a big piece of what we do, is just kind of helping make sure folks know who to reach out to and help them get the answers they need to kind of make their travel experience as smooth as possible.
I guess it's a balancing act too, I would bet, between keeping people safe, both, you know, keeping things off the airplanes that we don't want, keeping people safe with COVID, and then also being friendly and having fun and a good time at the airport.
My goal is really two things, depending on who I'm serving. For a large population, I want to make the airport an almost forgettable experience, because it can be stressful. There's a lot of stimulus here. If you're a first-time flyer, it can be overwhelming. So for those folks, I want the airport just to operate smooth and intuitively. I want you to be able to just come through that front door, go to the ticket counter if you need to, get through security, find your gate and be ready for that flight. Because I know there's a lot of anxiety out there for first time flyers or folks who don't fly a lot. On the other end of the spectrum is the business traveler. And I want them to have a pretty unforgettable experience here. I want them to remember CVG as one of the best, if not the best airport that they've been through. So, what are those additional features that we can add and make their experience that much better? Everyone tells us we're the front door to the community. So we want to make sure we bring that impression to folks as they come here or as they're on their way back home.
That's great. I really wanted to talk to you about the LIFT program that you implemented. And I'm going to tell the listeners, it stands for Leading Individuals Forward Together. And so what I'm really interested to learn about is, how did this come about? What is it? And then how can people take advantage of the LIFT program at CVG?
Yeah, so it really started kind of late, I believe it was 2012. My boss at the time was at a conference, and the Boston airport was talking about their Wings for Autism program. I believe he called me from the presentation in the room. He knew that I have some good friends that work in the Mason City School District in the program for kids on the spectrum. And he reached out and he said, hey, dig around a little bit, see what you can find out. How can we bring this to our airport? So hung up, made the phone call. That was like the first of a lot of questions that I asked for almost a year. The folks at Mason put me in touch with Dr. Smith at the Kelly O'Leary Center, who I know I've watched the video you did with her.
Oh, great.
And then really from there, we just kind of started to build a team. It was important to us to have, me on the airport asking the silly questions, just understanding, because, we had a vision of what we wanted. And then the practitioners from the Kelly O'Leary Center, from Mason City Schools, but then we also had family, folks who had kiddos on the spectrum. And we really just wanted to build a program that was well-rounded and really dive deep into it. As we looked into some of the other programs that are out there, there's a lot of one-day event things that happen. We wanted to make sure we had staff training here at the airport. We wanted the families involved with some type of training on what to expect. Over a year, we spent just creating kind of the look and feel of that program and the supports for the day of the event. And that's what we call the passenger ribbon. From the time you buy a ticket to the time you get on the plane and the reverse on your return trip, that passenger ribbon, we spent a lot of time identifying what were all of the possible areas where there might be a need or an opportunity for some either be how does that incorporate into the social story, into that narrative, and what would some of the supports look like? We spent a lot of time, that moment when you're at the ticket counter and you're giving up your bag to that person who you've never met before, and the stranger's taking your bag and they weigh it and then they put a sticker on it and they put it on a belt behind you. That can be overwhelming. And what are some of the things that we could have do to help the families? And the thing about and it was originally called SOAR, and I'm glad other organizations in town have been able to keep that name. We were really proud of it. But kind of the real goal with SOAR, I want families to be able to go and enjoy that trip and not feel like they have to load into the car and drive 18 hours. I would love for them to have that convenience of air travel, but really SOAR is about it's about practicing, but it's also about finding out, maybe flying's not right for you right now. Maybe this isn't the time. And so throughout the process, and as we created all those supports, we're always keeping that in mind that, what are those off ramps, and, what are those moments that, that, hey, this year might not be the year, but let's try that again. And we've had some kiddos go through multiple times.
So what I think I hear you saying is that SOAR, now called LIFT, was a program that was developed with stakeholders in the community, parents, people with disabilities, people from the airport, and came together to try to create an experience that would make it possible for a person who might become overwhelmed to have an airport experience that was, if not enjoyable, was tolerable. And
Correct.
the goal obviously being enjoyable. And so what would somebody do if they're not going to take part, which we're going to come to, which is the, kind of the training? Would somebody who's coming to the airport with a child for the first time who might have autism spectrum disorder, would they call somebody to let them know that they're coming, or are those things just in place and clearly marked, or how does that work?
If they feel confident that they can come through and there aren't going to be issues or they don't expect issues, I always tell folks, the checkpoint is the place where it's the most overwhelming. And TSA has a great program called TSA Cares. Really, about 72 hours out, the family can just call that number and TSA will make someone available. If it's just a matter of being aware, that's a great route. But if you feel like you might need some additional assistance or someone to come through with you, they will make that available. And they have some passenger support specialists at the airport here. And I'll tell you, we have one of the best TSA groups in the country. And we get really good reviews on the folks that go through the TSA Cares program and end up with a passenger support specialist. They'll come and meet you out in the terminal, out at the ticket counter, and they'll essentially escort you through the process and just make sure that it goes smoothly. And that's available at all airports. I've heard differing reviews at different airports on how well it went. I'm happy to say, our local TSA has really embraced this LIFT program from the get-go. As you know, you can't go too far without finding someone who's impacted or experiencing either a child or a friend or a relative who has autism spectrum disorder. Soon as we launched this program, we found folks in every facet of the organization. And so that's really where I tell folks to start, is with TSA Cares. Now, COVID has suspended our LIFT program. We're hoping to get it back. I think our stretch goal is this fall. I don't know if that's really in the cards yet, but next spring at the latest. But we also do one-offs. If there's a family that's traveling out of Cincinnati and they have concerns, they can reach out to us on our customer service, info@cvgairport.com, and work with our team. And we can usually find a time that works for them to come out. They don't get the full LIFT experience, but it is kind of an orientation and kind of a walkthrough just for those families that need that and think that might be helpful as they get ready to travel.
Awesome. You just covered a whole lot there. So thank you for that. So TSA, which isn't even part of your CVG experience, right? They don't, you're not their boss, right? It's the federal government's their boss. But TSA has a program called TSA Cares, and 72 hours outside of a trip, parents or a loved one would call and say, hey, we've got a situation here that we'd like to have handled in a unique way because we have somebody with unique needs. We want to make this as easy as possible for them. So that's kind of the first step. And then through your experience working with stakeholders, you've made the airport experience as easy as possible for an individual with autism. And then I want to go even further than that you have this, and I think you just touched on it, you have a special program that lets people kind of simulate what it's going to be like. And I also saw something where you have caregiver training. Can you talk about both of those?
Yeah. So we'll start with the caregiver training. That was something as we created SOAR, now LIFT, we thought was important to have the families buy in. Typically, the event will be on a Saturday, the actual simulation of the travel day. Typically, we'll have like a Tuesday or Wednesday before that, we'll have a caregiver training. And it's really about just walking them through and here's what to expect on that following Saturday as we go through the event. And that's when we talk about, the resources that the TSA has. That's when we talk about, where does the airport fit in? Where does the airline fit in? Where to direct your questions and kind of understand, get that big picture of what, travel looks like. And then the day of the event, our LIFT events, it's just like you were getting ready to go on a flight. You'll show up at our front curb, everybody will unload, you'll go to the ticket counter. We'll have a specific ticket counter dedicated to the event, go through that check-in process. And then the family just follows that passenger ribbon. You go through the security checkpoint, you'll stop at the restrooms on the way if you want to. A lot of folks will come out in time to hit that restaurant with the golden arches that everybody seems to love on their way to the plane. And then we get to the gate, and We typically will include like a kind of your normal waiting period, that you're waiting for that departure. Sometimes we'll throw in a delay, that can be upsetting if that plane's supposed to leave at 3:05 and it's 2:45 and I know I'm supposed to be loading now and I haven't started loading now. We'll make announcements that say, folks, just to let you know, the 3:05 flight's delayed. We'll now start loading 20 minutes late, whatever that might be. We try to build that in.
You might try to get the general public involved in that kind of training, because I've seen some people get really upset about that.
Yeah. And Dr. Smith has commented on that on a few occasions, that this is probably a good program for everybody.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily disagree. But yeah, and then we'll load, we'll get on the plane. The first time we did this, we simply got on the plane. It was a plane that had a long turn time, and we just sat in the plane and it didn't leave the gate. The folks at Delta, they've really stepped up, and the lift program now includes a taxi period. So they'll actually board up, go through all the announcements, and push back from the gate and taxi around the airfield for a little bit, and then come back in. And then you do it all in reverse. You'll deplane, go through sometimes families, that's when they hit the restaurants, and then come back to bag claim and retrieve your bag, and then off you go. It's interesting, to see how different the reactions are. Sometimes families come in and you can see the anxiety and then the nervousness, and for the most part we have really good feedback and a lot of success stories. There's some bumps along the way, but that's part of the experience, and that's part of
the reason
learning.
you do it.
That's
right?
Exactly why you do it. I know a lot of folks that really just they stay home. They don't like the looks. They don't like all the stuff that happens when you get out and there's not understanding. So we just try to create that environment where you can feel safe and confident to explore and understand if this is right for you. If
That's
air
amazing.
travel is right.
And you say COVID has suspended it, and your hope is that maybe this fall, but that's probably a push. So
Yep.
in the spring of next year.
Yep.
And so how do folks sign up for a lift simulation?
So when we get close, we'll put a registration page out on our website. If folks want to send a note to info@cvgairport.com, we'll get them on our general mailing list. That has the CVG news that comes out every so often. That's the first place we tend to put it, but then we also work directly with Children's to make sure they know when it's coming up, and they'll post it to their Facebook page that they have.
Does it fill up quickly?
They tend to fill up quickly. We've had a few that were a little slower. We haven't quite identified, what the difference was.
Okay.
In terms of that. I think when we start these up again, I have a feeling they will fill up pretty quickly. One of my asks to the carriers is, is there a potential to maybe do 2 in one day? Or is there a way, because I have a feeling based on some of the calls we've received that there's a little bit of a backlog building, folks who want to take advantage of the program.
Wow. It's really, really neat. And I'm so glad that your boss went to Boston and heard about that. And then,
Yep.
you took it and ran with it and got in touch with Dr. Smith. And it just sounds amazing to give folks the opportunity to practice and see what it's really like to get on that plane and see if it's right for them, or see if they need more practice.
Yeah. And I think what's great about Cincinnati and it's this inclusion network that we're a part of. There's I think 16 other organizations at this point. They've really kind of taken this program and kind of applied it to their own location and their own, whether it be the sports team or the arts. I like how SOAR has gone on, and the zoo has a program, and how everyone is just really stepping up and kind of, it's accessibility is one thing, inclusion is a different thing, and to make these experiences available is just key. I mean, that's what this is all about.
Just amazing. So I want to thank you, Adam, first for all of your work with the SOAR/LIFT program. I think that's the way I'll refer to it from now on, if that's all right with you.
Yeah.
And all the work that you do every day to help people with disabilities just have a great experience and be able to enjoy the things that that are out there and really have the world open up to them.
I think there's just so much opportunity out there. We have items on our list that we want to keep improving, outside the LIFT program. And I think that's, you got to find those incremental gains, and, we're just happy to do it. And I firmly believe that any improvement we make for anybody helps everybody. So that's, there's learnings to be had for all populations through these programs.
That's great. Well, thank you so much and have a great day. And I hope it's successful and people have a great time at the CVG.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of VLOGAN. Please like, share, and subscribe to the RRPG channel so you can stay up to date with some of the latest news in the disability community.